Yes. What's happening? Happy Friday. Hope you're really good. So this is going to be our final show of the week. We're going to be diving in into talking about the runaway effect. Okay. I think this is a really good one because a lot of guys run away from the problems that they need to confront and actually stops them progressing, right? So let me just get my notes up. We're going to get ready to go. We're going to get into this Friday. We're going to get you set up for the weekend. Just one point is that there'll be no show on Monday because I'm traveling to Barcelona with our top 1% club, which is my private mentor group. So we're going away for a retreat. So I will be unable to take a show on Monday, but we will be back again in 7 days on this Friday. Okay, cool. All right, so let's get into it. Welcome to the Rise to Thrive show. I'm your host, James Boardman. If you are coming through, then please do me a favor and let me know by hitting the love heart button, commenting that you are watching. If you are watching back, then let me know that you're watching back. I think communication's important, and not enough people interact or engage. Let me know that you're here. Cool. All right. So let's get into this. So let's talk about, let me ask you this question that in respect is that how many times have you known that you've had to confront an issue or a problem, but instead of confronting it, you've avoided it? Okay. And you've buried your head in the sand. You've tried to pretend that that problem doesn't exist, or you've turned away to go and do something else and distract yourself. That is what I call the runaway effect. It's like when we know we have to confront an issue, we know we have to confront a problem, but we go the opposite way. Okay. So examples of that could be, number one, you know you're about 3 stone overweight, but you're avoiding the problem. You're in a job that you hate, but you're avoiding the problem. Your business isn't growing the way you want it to, but you're avoiding the problem. The sacrifice to you building a business is time with your wife and your kids, but you're not confronting the problem. And this is the thing, is that we keep running away over and over again. And then we wonder why we're not progressing. We wonder why we're not getting the results that we want out of life. We wonder why we're not feeling control, we're not feeling clarity, we're not feeling certainty moving forwards, right? So this is what I often call the runaway effect. And it's the thing that stops men, professional guys, reaching their absolute potential, you know? And we have to look at some of the reasons why that happens. And I think that's important to understand before we go on and try and solve that problem. So why do men avoid confronting the issue? Well, I think there's 2 sides here. So the first side is that more psychological, is that there's a big fear. There's a huge amount of fear. So when I think about when I first started working online, I procrastinated for 2 years. I avoided confronting the fact that I needed to go online and work online and do videos. I used to hate doing videos. I was too concerned about what other people thought, but we will come on to that bit in a minute. And there was this big fear, this big block of doing what I know that was required to get to the place that I wanted to be. And I see this often when I work with business owners, especially. They are like just grinding in, they're just working on all the hours under the sun, they're killing themselves into the floor, and they're not confronting that because they are fearful that if they stop, their business is going to crumble. That's a really good example. Another one is often when I work with other professional men, is that they feel that if they're not obligated or they're not showing up or they're not going above and beyond within their jobs, there's this fear that they're going to lose their jobs, or then there's fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown. And that psychological factor really contributes to men running away from confronting the issue. And I often look at fear as one of those things that if we can start breaking through fear on 1 or 2 different components of life, then we can do it in any way. And overcoming fear is a habit for me, because the more that you get into the habit of overcoming fear and taking action and breaking through, the more momentum in that type of realm you can make, which gives you that momentum, which gives you that progress, which gives you that, what was I even worried about in the first place? Does that make sense? Okay. So in terms of psychological effect, there's overthinking, monumental overthinking. And like, I'm going away with the top 1% guys next week, majority from our business owners. And the amount of times that I have to kick their backside because they're overthinking the process of doing this launch or making this change or creating the barriers or doing this or doing that and making that decision, because they overthink everything over and over and over again. And what it does, it stops the progression, it stops the movement. And the reason that those guys in the top 1% club progress more in 3 months than most do in a year is because there is no, I squeeze for action. There is no running away. Okay. And we talk about speed of growth, and we talk about how quickly we want to grow as an individual, as a person within our business or our role. And it's the quicker that we take action, the more we unpack, the more that we learn, the more we might fail, or the quicker that we can win. But we're gaining that experience. And that's why guys who work with me on a more closer level experience monumental growth, 4 times, 5 times the growth someone would in a year. And that's because we're not running away, we're confronting. And when you confront, you get results. And when you get results, you're happier. And when you're happier, you live a more fulfilled life. You can go to sleep. You don't wake up in the night worrying about things. You don't wake up with doom and gloom. Yeah? Know where I'm coming? So the other side of it is societal factors. So I often talk about this, and one of the again, I use my business owners as a example because I've been spending a lot of time with them recently, and we're going away together for 3 days in Barcelona next week. So these are some of the things that are coming up. So comparing yourself to like other people. So you're not taking action, thinking that you're not at a particular standard or stage. Like, this is something that I often found, is that when I looked at other people that are in my market who have been doing this longer than me, there were chapters ahead. And because I was so far ahead, I almost felt quite intimidated that, like, what do I know? What's the point in me doing it? And it become that mentality, and that become a real block at stopping back in the day. So comparing ourselves, worrying about what other people think is another one. And I often have this like a little analogy that in 100 years, 99.9% of the planet will be dead, and there will be a whole nother new generation. There'll be somebody else living in your house. There'll be somebody else doing your job role, probably AI, but there'll be somebody else doing this job, working with men. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, when you put perspective on the thoughts of other people, and you realize that actually it doesn't matter in the bigger deal, and there is so much progress to be made if you can just overcome that societal, like, those societal factors that are stopping you moving forwards. If you could just drop them. And I often have this conversation with my top 1% club all the time. It's like, what does it matter if you fail? What does it matter if what they think? What does it matter if you get it wrong? That's the whole point. We're unpacking as quickly as possible, because the more we unpack, the quicker we grow. And then the quicker we grow, the more progress we make, etc. Okay. So let's have a look at this. Okay. So the consequences of avoiding confrontation on personal growth and achievement. Okay. So let's look at I'm going to give you an example of this. So I'm going to build on the story that I told you earlier about the 2 years that I put off confronting myself to start this business because of fear. So it could have been disastrous, because if I continued that, COVID would have come along, and I was running a boot camp business at the time. Had lots and lots of people, we had about 400 members. And if COVID had come along and I hadn't started my online business when I did, I would have been smashed into the ground. Okay. But what I should have done, when I went to a seminar in California in 2015, I went to go and learn about an online business. And I went to go and see one of the best in the business in doing it. And I made that commitment. I made the financial commitment. I didn't necessarily have the money, but I went anyway. And I come back and I made a really great start. In the first 12 weeks, I went, boom, let's go, get this out there. Let's make this happen. Let's see if this works. And then I stopped, because I overthought, because I allowed fear to get in, because I allowed my low emotional state to dictate my actions, i.e. like negative. Why am I doing this? What's the point in doing this? Because I didn't get the the results that I wanted in the first 3 months, thinking that I was going to be an overnight superstar. Expectations. And then I turned my back on it and I started walking the other way. And because I was walking the other way, I wasn't confronting the problem. I had a weak mentality, and this is like back in 2016. And I had a weak mentality. I avoided confronting the problem. So I didn't solve the problem. So I continued to be staying in the same place, continued to be in pain, etc. And I did that for about another year, like 18 months. It was probably 18 months to a year. And then in that last 6 months, leading up to that 2 years, I started to confront it. I started to go, right, no, this is what I want to do. This is what I foresee my business, like the business I've got today. This is when I was visualizing it back then. Okay. And I slowly and surely started turning the cogs. And then I did this. I wrote that. And that was my promise to myself, that in 2017, that this was going to be the rocket fuel that took me and my business to the next level. So I wrote this and I backed it up and I confronted it and we went all in. And that's one of the most pinnacle moments of my career in terms of, this is a great example of confronting. Okay, for those people that listen on the audio, I'm holding my It's the State of Mind book. That book, writing that book, was almost the binding contract to myself that I was going to confront my fears and my issues on other people and get to work and start building. And that's exactly what we did. And we started building and we started building and we started building. And then we went all in. We went all in 2020. I closed down my boot camp. And then 2020, we went full time with this. And that is a story of how slowly but surely I went from turning my back on the problems, that if I had solved those problems, it would have created the life that I wanted. And then suddenly going, yes, this is what I need to do. Bang, this is how we go. And there are many, many stories like that within our realm, within the community that we work within. Okay. So there are 3 steps, okay, to confront this. Number 1 is acknowledge that you're avoiding the problem. Number 2 is recognize it, like recognize, like the things that you are doing, your behaviors. And again, this takes a higher level of thinking, high emotional state, like understanding that actually, like, man, like, I'm avoiding that problem. Like, do you know what I mean? So you acknowledge it, then you go into depth with it, and then you accept it. Okay. And when we acknowledge, recognize, and accept, we then understand the bigger problem. Okay, we understand what's going on. And when we understand something, we can solve it better. And ultimately, it's easy just to turn around and say, just get on with it, just go and do it. But you have to be able to look in the mirror and recognize it and understand it and accept it, and then go, right, I get it. Like if I confront this, if I confront this, then this is going to change. Okay, if I confront the fact that I am overweight and I'm carrying a belly round of 3 stone that I really shouldn't, and no wonder my wife doesn't want to have sex with me. Do you know what I mean? And realizing that you're not setting a good example for your kids, then you've had that awareness, then you understand it, then you have emotional connection, then you go away and change it, and then suddenly you realize the bigger picture. It's hard. Okay, cool. So again, it's tough love, but it is what it is, and that's the way it goes. You're never going, if you're somebody that wants to progress and you want success and you want to grow and you want to build you to go away and build that business or your career, then these are the things that you have to confront, and these are things that you have to do. And I've been there. I know how hard it is. I've got guys on my top 1% club who are business leaders. I discussed this, guys in my elite squad as well, and then guys who are in my elite brotherhood as well. So I'm dying here. Sorry, man flu's killing me. So it's really, really important that you understand this, because I'm going to tell you right now, you are never, ever, ever going to grow unless you confront this. Okay. And you might be like, well, I do it in some parts of my life and not in others. Then focus on the bits that you're not doing it in your life, because you'll end up getting to 85 years old and you look back and go, geez, like, I really wish I'd done more. And when your grandson or your granddaughter sitting on your knee and they're turning around and say, Granddad, tell me what your life was like. Oh yeah, it was full of running away, my darling. It was full of running away and not really confronting the issues that I had or reaching my potential. How does that conversation go down? Instead, you could turn around and go, sometimes, kid, you've got to confront your fears You've got to overcome them, and you've got to do what's necessary to get to the place that you want to be in life. Otherwise, you're going to live a very average, very mediocre, a very painful existence, and you've still got 40 years left. Nah, that's not for me, and that's not for you. So I don't believe you'd be sitting here. All right, cool. So next show, next Friday, 0600. Okay, I'll make sure that I put the link out in the socials and in the groups. But if you don't get the links as the reminder, just turn up at 6 o'clock. I'll be here ready to go. I'll stick this up on a podcast as well. If you have not listened to the podcast, just go to It's a State of Mind. It's on Spotify and Apple, and you can download everything that I'm doing verbally there. All right, guys, thanks so much. If you've got any comebacks and you want to talk about the show, just stick them in the comments, or you can email me at boardmanjames.com. Have a good Friday.